Hi, hello, and welcome to the video. Whether you're someone who loves gaming, loves horror, loves overthinking, or just a game dev looking for some tips, this is the video for you. My name's Danahan, and this is Overthinking Media, where we overthink all things anime, gaming, cinematic, and entertaining, with the intent to start a discussion on subjects that may not change the world, but are fun to overthink. Well, today we're talking about how to use the unknown to make your horror threats more memorable. There are so many ways of doing this. It could be that you show all of the monsters, but never show how they came to be. As I mentioned in another video, go check out the little eye for the rest of the playlist, in The Mist, we're shown a selection of monsters, but it never definitively confirms where they came from. Like, we know they came... Actually, no, we don't know they came from a portal. They're in the mist, that's all we know. We don't know they didn't come from Earth. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We don't know. It could be that you leave notes for the player to find, mentioning Project X and Subject Y and Experiment X, noting how something seemed to have gone wrong, with more notes to come. But that's the last note in the book. Or by mentioning subject X, Y, or Z and going, oh cool, and then the rest of the pages are covered in blood, and you can't make out the rest. So yeah, the only way to kill the entity is it's too covered in blood, I can't make it out. Or even though there are notes, but they're half burnt up and you can't make them out. It could be that you place your player in the middle of the events, but with no memory as to how or why they're there. Something like they were in a coma. They got hit over the head. Ow! Or they just woke up there with no memories as to how they got there. Whatever you want to do to justify it, where everyone else knows exactly what's going on because they were told in the past that you've got amnesia, you're hit over the head, you don't remember anything. For a reason you don't know it, but everyone else knows what's going on and they think you know, so no one explains it to you. It could be that you've gone to investigate something and you feel like the locals know more than they're telling you, but no one's willing to talk about it for whatever reason. It's unclear to you why they're not talking, but to them, and to you later in the game, yeah, it makes sense. Have the game start after the player has already been briefed on their mission, so the character, as you're playing as, knows exactly what's going on, but you, as the player, have just installed the game. Press start, begin game. And you, as the person playing the game, have no idea what's going on. And I think this is actually an underutilized method. I think it's clever, because so many games start with, okay, here's the exposition, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, haha! But if it's a mystery game, should you have all the information? Take the movie adaptation of Stephen King's The Mist from 2007. Yes, I know it's a movie, not a game, but this movie does horror monsters so well, so game devs, take note. The movie gives you a taste of what's in the world, but it never gives you a full picture. It never shows you more than just a taste. It gives you a little tiny taste of what's in the world now, but leaves the rest up to your imagination. I mean, yeah, we're shown the bugs, we're shown the scorpions, we're shown the spiders, we're shown the flying creatures, we're even shown the Elder God at the end, but we have no idea what else is in the mist. Those tentacle creatures that stole the shop boy, what did they belong to? Were they their own individual worm-like creatures? Or were they attached to something else in the mist we couldn't see? Was each tentacle its own creature? Did they work individually or as a hive mind? We don't know. What about the Elder God at the end? Was it an Elder God? Or is there a world, dimension, location in some plane of existence where these things just exist? Is this just an interdimensional cow? Was it hostile or was it docile? Did it not see the car, or did it just not want to hurt them? Or did it just not see them as worth doing whatever it would be that that thing does to humans or vehicles? We don't know. What about the small fauna living on it? Were they attacking it, or were they living in a symbiotic relationship with it? We don't know. And that's what makes it so good. almost every question is left up to the imagination of the viewer. I also want to address the fact that, yes, in the original script and in the original plan for the original script for the movie stated that Project Arrowhead was responsible for the creatures. They were running an experiment which opened an interdimensional portal that was damaged by the lightning, which resulted in critical failure, which meant the monsters and creatures in the mist could come through. However, considering it was a conscious choice to actively remove this from the final cut, I think it's a conclusion that the answer should be left ambiguous. I don't know if they consulted with Stephen King on The Mist when they made it. I don't know if he's still alive or not, actually. Maybe he was dead by that point. I don't know, but I feel like if he were alive and he did have input on it, he wouldn't want the answer to be an actual answer. Because it's cut from the final cut, we never actually get a definitive answer from the movie as to where the monsters came from. Like, yes, an answer is there was a lightning strike, it damaged Project Arrowhead, and the monsters came through. That is an answer. But do you know what else is an answer? It was an experiment gone wrong. It's something from the other side took control of it. It was an experiment gone right. This was the right result. We tested on a small town in the world and wanted to see the side effect. This was what we planned. There was no mess up. This was all planned. It was Judgment Day. It was an act of God. The scientists messed with something they shouldn't have, and hell opened up and released its hellspawn into the world. It was aliens. Aliens purposely sabotaged the Arrowhead project. They came from an alternate reality where that is Earth. They happened to open a dimensional portal to another Earth, and that's what lives on that Earth. Project Arrowhead never successfully worked. However, someone from another dimension did open a portal and release their demons into your world. It was a closed loop paradox. Those creatures that existed in the movie existed later on in the timeline, and they were sent back in time so the humans in the future could survive. So the creatures we attack in the present were actually the ones from the future that were sent back in time again to recreate the loop. No monsters actually came through the portal. The fog was all that existed, but it was a massive mutation that affected all the life forms on Earth and mutated all the insects in the fog to these massive monstrous creatures. Seriously, like, all of those are just as valid answers. I mean, yeah, they're unlikely, but they're not proven wrong. And because we don't know, we don't have a definitive answer. I like the concept of a paradox of a closed loop where Arrowhead connected with the future and sent their own monsters back for us to survive. I like that. It's dumb, it doesn't make sense, but it's a fun concept theory. On a side note though, can the creatures actually be called monsters? Or rather, can they be considered bad? Are humans considered bad to livestock? Are humans considered monsters to livestock? Should cows, pigs and chickens see us as monsters? What about fish? Humans are these leviathan-like creatures to fish. They drag fish out of their world and into a world without water, where they suffocate, where they can't breathe, in an alien foreign world. Eventually they die. The fish are dragged out of their home into an alien world and they die because of human. Yes, the creatures in the mist also killed human, but the humans also killed a lot of the monsters. Even in the pharmacy scene, the only reason the creatures actually attacked is because they were threatening their nest. The humans invaded their nest and threatened their young. So of course the acid spiders would protect their young. Acid monkeys would be terrifying. I mean, acid spiders are far more creepy looking, but monkeys, I mean, where was I going with this? Even the tentacles weren't being actively hostile. They were just lost creatures in an alien world exploring location, and they just so happened to find something they could eat to survive. In Subnautica, a game where you crash land on an alien planet that you have no idea about and no information of, are you a monster for eating the fauna there? Are you a monster for eating life forms to survive? I find it fascinating to think about this sort of things. Let me know what you think. This is a video on like monsters in horror, but just in general, like, this is what I want to talk about. I'm not even going to tie a video out of the whole concept of the philosophy of what's actually a monster, but hey, let's start a discussion because, yeah, why not? Even beyond the mist creature's origins, there are a lot of things in the movie we just don't get an answer to. For instance, what was it that dragged the biker who went for the shotgun into the sky? Was it one of the scorpions? Was it one of the flying creatures? Was it the Elder God? Or was it just a creature we never actually saw in the entire movie? We don't know, and we never will. And that's what's so great about it. In the case of an actual game, though, I don't know why I'm still holding the book. I kind of like having a prop in my hand, actually. It looks kind of nice. But yeah, in the case of an actual game, let's talk about Half-Life, shall we? Throughout the game, we're mainly introduced to basic enemies. The head crab, the barnacle, the Cthulhu dog, the hound eyes, the gargantuans, the voragars, the tentacles, and the bodybuilders. However, once we arrive in Zen, Onsen, You arrive on Earth, so I guess it'd be on Zen. Once you arrive on Zen, it's revealed there are several more life forms existing on the planet that we had not encountered on Earth. There were the Zappers, the Gonarch, and even the Neolymph. Neolymph? No matter how I pronounce it, someone's going to say I'm wrong, so I'm going to say Neolymph. Neolymph, the big baby. And yes, because of this being a game, I can acknowledge that yes, those were the only aliens in the game due to, like, production limitations and time. The game was made on a budget, on a time period. There were no extra monsters existing in the world. But in the confines of the Half-Life universe, Zen is only shown to you as one corner of one planet, of one small section, of one location on the world. If there are creatures living in this section of Zen, what about other parts of the world? If you went to the Sahara, I was going to say Sahara Desert, but the Sahara is the desert. So if you went to Sahara and you saw camels, crows, vultures, and I don't know my animals. But yeah, if you went to the Sahara and saw the native animals that lived there, would your first conclusion be, okay, these are the only animals that exist in the entire world? No. We have sharks in water. We have polar bears in the freezing cold. We have kangaroos in Australia. There are many creatures that exist other places than just the Sahara. But when you arrive on Zen, you're only shown that small section of Zen. Who knows what other creatures are out there? But like I said, because it is a game, I acknowledge there were no extra creatures, no rest of the world encoded into the game. But in the Half-Life universe, we don't know. In the second game, the world is controlled by the Combine, an alien species we possibly never actually see. I mean, it's possible that the Advisor is a Combine, but it's also possible it's just another soldier. Granted, it's a high-ranking soldier, but it's still just a soldier that the Combine have taken over the planet of and put into their military control. Then there's Raising the Bar, a real-world Half-Life book detailing concept art from the first and second game for what they wanted their creatures to be, filled with possible aliens and monsters that never made it to the final game. But for all we know, in the Half-Life universe, these creatures do exist. Perhaps these creatures were on Zen, or even on Black Mesa, in Black Mesa, either on Zen or in Black Mesa. We just never encountered them on our journey as Gordon Freeman. Beyond speculation and hypothesis though, we have the tentacles, massive tentacle-like creatures. Hence, the name. But we only ever actually see these creatures poking out of the ground. Beyond the parts that we see sticking out of the ground, we have no idea what these creatures actually look like. In most encounters, they're found in clusters, either together or within close proximity of each other. Much like the Mist, are they their own individual creatures? Are they connected to something else? Are they connected to each other? Are they like a giant worm where they like curve around, where two heads are actually just one connected by like one long bit? Like one big U? Are they actually like a giant squid-like creature that's sticking its tentacles out of the ground? It's made up of like 8 or 10 limbs, but we only see 3 or 4 or whatever. Are the other 5 like pinning it to the ground, like so it can like stick to the ceiling, while the other roots like stick out? Who knows? The one time we do get to see what's below its heads is when the rocket propulsion test chamber completely annihilates them. Just obliterates them to smouldering nothingness. After which though, you have no way of knowing what was destroyed and what remained. Which is why it works so well. Because we don't know. But yeah, I understand if you use no clip, you can actually like no clip under the ground and see that they just get cut off right here, like tentacles, nothing. I get that, but we were never actually supposed to see that part of the creature because it's out of bounds, so we can't really use that as lore. But because of this, we never have a full image of what the tentacles actually are. Maybe they were their own life forms, maybe they were each their own tentacles, maybe they were connected to one thing, maybe they just lived in a symbiotic relationship where they were all separate things but worked together. Who knows? The reason having unknown factors in your game and your monsters is so important is not only does it keep the player invested in your game, wanting to discover more secrets and mysteries about the game, but also when it comes to horror game, it creates a flare of horror and fear where you're not entirely sure what's going to happen next. You're never quite certain what could or will happen because you don't fully understand the power of these creatures. I covered it in a previous video, but once again, when it comes to unknown factors, just in general, the big golden rule question should always be, does this need to be in the game? Does the player need to know this answer? Is this something that is needed for the story to progress? For instance, if the player finds himself trapped inside Monster Mansion, surrounded by monsters, Do they really need to know the origin? Do they need to know where the monsters came from? Do they need to know whether it's a monster, alien, dimensional being, experiment, or fifth dimension entity? Do they need to know that? No. All they need to know is, I need to kill that creature because it's going to kill me otherwise. Do we really need to know where these monsters came from? Because let me guess. It was a science experiment gone wrong. It was an unexpected toxic mutation. Some CEO thought they could control it, despite all the warnings saying, hey, this thing cannot be controlled. Drugs, black magic, some witchcraft, some sort of supernatural ability. I mentioned Half-Life earlier in the video, but what about G-Man? Even after like quarter of a century, we do not have any definitive answers about the G-Man, whether he's actually an ally or not, or even the extent of his actual powers. As far as monsters go, G-Man, and I'm calling him a monster because he is clearly not human. At least I don't think he is, because he has powers that are clearly not human, but maybe he is, I don't know, because we don't know. But as far as monsters go, G-Man is probably the most effective, who does the most with the most little. He's just a regular looking human. Sure, he's a bit serious and cool. Has that like Tommy Lee Jones look about him, which if you ever do a G-Man, like a Half-Life movie, Tommy Lee Jones is the character to go for G-Man. Point being, he looks human, but he very clearly isn't. Apart from the fact that we know he has employers and can manipulate time and space, we don't actually know anything else about him. Even if we did get a definitive answer to what the G-Man is, and we get all the answers and all secrets are revealed, will it make us happy? Will we be satisfied? Or does the fact that we probably never will get a definitive answer to what the G-Man is make it even better? Sometimes we don't need to have a definitive answer because it's not important. The Walking Dead began with a virus, but it never specifies where the virus came from. Was it man-made? Was it like prehistoric that thawed out of the ice because of global warming and released into the environment, causing the infection to begin? Was it aliens like the original script joked about? Was it a single ocean-based mutation in some random life form in the ocean that spread throughout the water undetected and infected the entire waters of the world, infecting everyone? We don't know. And regardless of how the series ended up, a through line of the series was we never got a definitive answer because it didn't matter. So, what's the takeaway from this video? Having mysterious monsters in horror is great. Or rather, alluding to additional information you will not get is great. It allows the player's imagination to go wild with theories and possibilities. It leaves the player walking away from the game with several unanswered questions, where there is no definitive answer. So all they can do is check out other people's theories, check out other people's conclusions, discuss with their friends, spread the word about the game, or even write their own conclusion as to what they believed any of the story was about, which may entice someone who had no interest in playing the game in checking it out because, oh, that's interesting. Is that what the game's about? I'm gonna go check that out. Cool. Have any of you watched The Babadook? I've had this debate with my father for a couple of years now about this movie. I think it's about the 5 stages of grief. He thinks it's about an actual supernatural being. Neither of us are willing to slide because the movie literally goes through the 5 stages of grief. Okay, so I'm gonna go into a rant, but yeah. We have this debate back and forth every so often. We're like, hey, Babadook. Okay, right, yeah, Babadook. And we just argue the point more and more. But there is no definitive answer to what the Babadook is in that movie. And that's what's so great about the movie. It's the same takeaway as another video I made, which check it out if you haven't, because it's similar to this one. If you like this video, go check that one out because they're kind of like sister videos. But yeah, the takeaway from this video should always be this. If it isn't something the player specifically needs to know for the progression of the game, it's fine to keep it secretive. It may be helpful to the player to know this information, but they don't need to know it, therefore you keep it secret. Let the player come to their own speculation, like, hey, I think this is how it works, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't need to know this, but hey, knowing this may help me in certain parts of the game, but I don't need to know it. However, if it's something the player needs to know, the game shouldn't withhold it just for theory points. For now though, thanks for watching. There are a lot more videos on horror on my channel. Go check out the entire playlist by clicking the little eye in the corner. Or hey, just stick around, check some stuff out. You can hang around this video if you want. I mean, it's going to end in a second, so you kind of hang around at the end of a finished video, so I don't know why you do that. But yeah, thanks for watching. Legitimately, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. This is a bit of a rambly one. I kind of mixed 2 scripts into one because the other one kind of bled. It wasn't very good. I had to kind of re-script it. So sorry. Kind of bit messy the script. See ya.